Welcome back to Southwest Yard and Garden. I'm John White. We're here in the demonstration garden at New Mexico State University's Fabian Garcia research farm, horticulture farm, and we're going to look at some trees today, and one of them that I'd like to point out is the one that's behind me, and this is the Montezuma Cypress. This is a good tree, especially if you're living in areas here in the southern part of the state where you're in a little bit more fertile deeper soils. This tree does quite well. Will eventually hit a height of somewhere around 60 to 80 feet, so it'll be quite a bit taller than what it is here, and it is a deciduous, so it kind of almost looks like a pine when you're kind of looking at it from a distance. Has kind of nice ferny growth on it, but it is deciduous, so it's going to drop these during the winter, and then it regrows the new growth back on it. So it has a nice kind of light green color to it, which kind of adds a little bit of interest in the landscape. But it is a plant that likes a little bit more water and the deeper, more fertile soil. So this is a good tree for this area. So let's take a look at some of the other trees here in the garden. The tree we have here is called a catalpa, and catalpa is a cross between the catalpa and the desert willow, which is actually a catalpa in the catalpa family. So this is a cross between the two, so it has some of the attributes of both trees. You can see it has a little bit broader leaf than what we see in the desert willow. Has a similar type bloom that you see on the desert willow, and also you see on catalpa, the orchid-like flower, but it does not produce a seed pod. So it's nice in that aspect that you don't have any trashy litter. If you're familiar with catalpa, they have very long bean pods that hang off it, and of course the desert willow has a little short pod that hangs on it, and a lot of times that's kind of discomforting to the owner because you have a lot of trash to pick up. So this is a little cleaner in that aspect. But this tree has the water needs more of the catalpa than it does the desert willow, so this needs more water to really keep it looking good. It's usually sold as a multi-trunk, so we have several different trunks coming off of it, and the tree tends to be, root sprouter, so it's going to take a lot of effort on the homeowner or the tree owner's part to keep these sprouts cut off in order to keep it into a multi-trunk fashion. Otherwise, it's going to turn into a big shrub. But these will get up somewhere about 20, maybe 25 feet tall, and at least that wide. They are deciduous, so they'll drop their leaves during the winter, but it does have this pretty bloom on it pretty much throughout the summer, and again, given adequate water, it makes a nice medium-sized tree for the area. So let's take a look at another tree. The small tree or kind of large bush that we have here is a Mexican buckeye. And Mexican buckeye is a native plant of the Chihuahuan Desert. Grows up in some of the mountain areas around here, around some of the boulders and stuff. Can be pruned up into a small tree. It is deciduous, drops its leaves during the fall. This one will probably get another few feet on it, somewhere approaching about 18, 20 feet in height, and probably at least that wide. Can be pruned into a multi-trunk or a single trunk tree, or left as a fairly large shrub. Has a beautiful bloom in the spring. It's already finished blooming, and it's starting to form these three locule pods here. It has a real pretty bright black seed inside it, and but it is a native plant. Gets by on a lot less water, and yet gives you a lot of beauty in the landscape. So this is a plant that you might want to try in some of your landscapes. Again, small tree. The tree to the back of us is a Laceburk Elm or evergreen elm, and this one has a much smaller leaf than some of the elms that we see in the landscapes here in the southern part of the state. And this one's called a Chinese elm, true Chinese elm. And a lot of people call the weedy elm that grows around some of the cities here in the southern part of the state, that's actually a Siberian elm. So don't mix the two. So this is the true Chinese elm. It really is an excellent tree. Has a very lacy bark to it, and just really a good tree. Needs a little bit more water. It's not a native tree. It's a adapted tree that's brought in, but it does quite well. Has a lot less insect and disease problems with it, so we want to look at some of these trees as replacement for some of the trees we're currently using, so that we have a different look to the city and not so much a monoculture. So we like to see these different trees. So again, that is the Ulmus parvifolia, the true Chinese elm. This lovely tree is a desert willow, and this is very characteristic of our area here in the southern part of the state, and we can see it spreading to other parts of the state because it is a very beautiful tree. This one happens to be a burgundy colored flower, and we do have a lot of color variation in the desert willows. There's a lot of varieties in the nursery trade, so we're starting to see a lot of difference in the color, but this is almost a pure burgundy color, so this is quite colorful and a lot different. You can see the typical shape of the tree is somewhat of kind of an open, lacy growth habit. It doesn't throw a real heavy shadow, and so that's good when you're trying to grow plants underneath it. As it keeps continuing to put out more flowers, these that get pollinated will develop a seed pod, so you will have a little seed pod hanging down that will show up later in the year. The tree is deciduous, so it loses its leaves in the winter. The tallest known tree, there is a record tree in El Paso of about 42 feet in height. And so these trees can, under ideal conditions with lots of moisture, good drainage, they can get some pretty good height on them, but usually you're looking at somewhere around 25, 30 feet. And again, deciduous, but very open growth habit, and they will grow under a variance of water regimes. They'll take as much water as you give them, or if you want to be a little bit stingy with them, they will go on a good xeriscape. So this is an excellent tree, again, the desert willow. In our second segment, we're going to continue looking at trees that are good for the southern part of the state as we continue to tour the New Mexico State University Landscape Garden.